All right, so let's take a look at first some general things here. First, your clever speed. The average came as 116. This is elite men's average, including professional players, college players, and then some teaching professionals. And then you exceed the average. The average is about 110. So you have a 116, which is pretty good. Particularly for your height, you're generating good speed here.
Yeah.
Now, overall swing time is less than 1,000 milliseconds. So this is impact. This is beginning of the backswing. It's less than 1 second. The time is also good. But the only thing I don't like here is, the two things that I don't like here is, first, if you look at the peak speed here, during the backswing, this is clever speed, but it reaches peak value here. And then, so backswing is from here to here, but so this is the line at the center here, but this is on the left side. That means that you're moving the club head early, but then slow down gradually. But rather, I want to see this peak speed on the right side of the line here. That means you need to gradually build the speed, and then the actual, the maximum speed should be more close to the end of the backswing.
Okay.
So build the climax toward the end. And this happens because you move early, but then you try to stop it. Your backswing is not that large, and you try to stop it.
Okay.
But if it's moving faster, then it's hard to stop. So you're afraid of that. That's why you have quick motion, but then you slow here, try to stop it. But let it go. Let the club head go. There's no reason to intentionally stop in the middle of the motion. So that's what happens here. And then here, you may not be able to see the number here, but it's a 3 and 4 sort of happening at the same time. 3 is when the lead arm becomes parallel to the ground during the backswing in the frontal view. 4 is when the club becomes vertical in the frontal view. But those are happening at the same time. Normally, there should be some time gap here.
Okay.
That means that you are using your wrist early.
Yeah, okay.
That's because you are lifting the club head.
Okay. I've always had a hard time with my back, like takeaway, backswing stuff.
So when you start the backswing, then you'll see that you are lifting the club head.
Yeah, that's normal. Yeah.
So
I don't like that.
So because of you have early wrist motion, and then also the speed, maximum speed occurs early, but then it gradually decreases. But rather, it gradually increases and then reaches peak value here, and then rapid deceleration and then acceleration here. Then you can connect the backswing to downswing a lot better. So with this, your backswing is not that large. So you're basically stopping this about here. So this is actually severe crossover alignment.
Yeah, I know. Can we fix that?
It depends on how you move the club head at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
Instead of lifting.
Lifting.
So you need to know, you need to feel the flow of motion rather than intentionally lifting this.
I don't feel like I'm trying to do that though, right?
Probably that board may help you to feel that. Okay? Build the speed, then let it go.
So you want to build it from here?
The speed, maximum speed occurs here,
Okay.
but maintain this motion, continuous motion here,
Yeah.
and then start and then build the climax toward the end of the backswing. When you have a good image of motion, continuous motion here, you don't lift it up.
Okay.
Rather, you let it go.
Okay.
No need to fight. Okay. When this is the main plane of motion here, the swing plane here. If you move it, and then bring it up, and then coming down, and then follow the swing plane. Generally, when you have good planar motion here, then you have minimum effort.
Yeah.
But if you move away from the main plane of motion, then you have to use force to do that, right?
Yeah.
So you're wasting
Yeah.
your force.
I've just been so inconsistent. That's why I'm here, right?
So, and then because of this crossover alignment here, in my definition, crossover means that the club head is deviated from the swing plane more than the hand.
Yep.
So this is crossover. If you keep going, then it'll be even worse. So the club will go probably here. When you are in the crossover alignment at the top here, then on the way down, so the club is aligned more this way here. On the way down, in order to move the club head along the swing plane, your hands have to go inward quite a bit here. Your hands have to come this way. Because the club is aligned this way here, and you bring this down, but you need to change the direction more toward the target, then your hands have to come in here.
Okay.
So this large rectangle is the swing plane, calculated from the club head motion. And it's fairly aligned toward target for this trial. And then this is this small rectangle is the hand motion plane. Okay, so on the average, the club head is fairly aligned toward the target here, but your hands are moving 9.6 degrees inward on the average. And more importantly, the standard deviation is 1.1 degrees. So from swing to swing, the direction changes quite a bit, your hand motion plane. It's because you are stopping just about here and then try to swing hard with your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Then depending on how much muscle force you generate, it fluctuates. But if you use the range of motion here, let it go all the way and then reverse the direction, then the variation in the direction is less.
Okay.
Imagine when you ball, you approach and then bring this high up here using this and throw here. But instead you go here and then try to throw hard using your muscles. It's hard to control the direction. So the speed is mainly coming from this backswing motion here. And from here it's coming down. You can generate enough speed. All your arm does is control the direction by using all the sensory inputs from here. In the military, when you throw a grenade, you don't throw this way. Sometimes you drop it and then it's disaster. So usually you throw this way. You practice this. And then, so when I was in the training, they actually scored it, right? So there's a small target and you throw it to that target. You should put it inside. I hit the target. It's not because I'm strong here, but I use this and use the backswing to control the downswing. When you putt, if you reasonable motion here from there, try to go, you can have a better direction control. But if it's a short, then when you try to hit it, the direction changes. The same thing. So if you increase your backswing and then keep the club head a bit closer to the swing plane, so here.
Yeah, then you don't have to think about the down.
Yeah. If the club head stays around here, about this level here, away from the swing plane, but it goes more, so the club head will be somewhere here, and then start coming down this way, then you have a lot better direction control. But in this case here, let's go to this view here. This is your swing plane here. So eventually, in the downswing, you need to move your club head along this plane here. However, in the backswing, you're moving way away from it, and then you are coming way, this away position, and then try to come to the swing plane. So it's hard to control the direction. So here, at the top, the hands and the club head will move away from the swing plane to a certain extent. But if you keep the club head about here, on this line here, and then give a bit bigger backswing here, then it'll come this way and then coming toward here. So you have a lot less off-plane motion.
Okay.
So more than anything, you need to control this. So reduce this and give a bit bigger backswing. That way you can control the direction better. So with this short backswing, then when you try to muscle it in the downswing, then it changes. So this line is the swing plane here. And this swing pattern is called the spiral swing. Spiral swing, because club head is up here at top, and it's coming down toward the swing plane, and in the follow through, it's actually going slightly below the swing plane here. So from high position, it's coming down this way here. So essentially, it's a spiral path. A better pattern is a planar pattern, which is, so it will deviate reasonably about this much here, and then it comes down to the swing plane, and then move along the swing plane, and then nicely goes up here. So the deviation at the top of backswing, and then the deviation at this point are reasonably balanced, and then the swing plane serves as the lower boundary. But in this case, your calibrator goes slightly below the swing plane in the follow through, because you start from a high position and then try to bring this low here, making this a spiral path here. This is because of the direction difference. This is almost close to 10 degrees. Okay, this is 10 degrees inward. This is a fairly square here. This angle difference causes the spiral pattern. Okay. So when you keep the club head closer to the swing plane at the end of the backswing, then your hands do not need to go inward this much. So this will go more toward the target. So the alignment of the club parallel to the swing plane at the top, that's important. Yeah. That will change the shape of the downswing motion. So more than anything, you will need to practice that initial part of the backswing, and then how to keep the club head reasonably closer to the swing plane, similar to the handle level. So if you can keep the club more or less parallel to the swing plane at the top with the larger motion, and then building the climax toward the end, that it will change a lot of things. You will feel a lot more comfortable with that. And then, again, swing plane here. The swing plane slope is about 43 degrees. This is reasonable for your height. And then, but the hand motion plane is a bit flat here, so it shows about 5 degree difference. So let's see. I'll add the hand pad here. So it goes up here, and then the reason why the hand plane is a bit flatter than normal. Between the swing plane and the hand motion plane, you should have a slope difference of about 9 to 10 degrees for the driver. You only have a 5 degree difference. That means your hand motion plane is a bit flat. And if you look at the way the hands are moving in the downswing, because of the crossover alignment, in order to compensate that, on the way down, your hands are first moving out, almost parallel to the swing plane here. You see here. And then, near the impact, the hands are brought inward here. So essentially, this gives the inward hand motion plane. But early part of downswing, you're moving the hands parallel to the swing plane. That's why it becomes flat. Gotcha. Okay. So instead of just coming down and touch and then going up, you're moving parallel to the swing plane and then quickly bring the hands in, because that way you can change the club head path more toward the target. Mm-hmm. So that's what I see here. In terms of the body center of mass motion here, so initially the center of mass is here, but this is when the club head starts moving. And as the club head starts moving, you tend to go slightly downward here. So your center of mass, this red dot, is going slightly downward. You're sort of sitting down a little bit. And then this is the high point here. The center of mass reaches the high point, which is a bit early here. But then from here to here, it's moving diagonally downward here. You need to drop this more, okay. Center of mass more. So you have to, instead of just to go up and then turning this way here, you have to go up and then drop. If you let it drop and then kick, it's a lot easier to push the ground. So, but when you just try to use your muscles and try to hit the ball, you more have a spinning motion than turning this way here. So your center mass tends to go down a little bit and then going up. But from here, it's not going down enough. And then you have to push this up. So 10 is impact. But so when you drop this more here, and then you have a more upward motion here, active upward motion. But because you're not dropping it, so this is higher than this low point here, right? So you're not dropping the center mass as much and then going up here. What that means is then you have a weak lead leg action
Yeah.
in the downswing.
Okay. So more pressure in my left foot. Is that what?
So in order to use the lead leg well later in the downswing, you see here, about here, the center pressure only goes about this much. These are the ground reaction forces here, and then the combined force is acting here. It's not shifting more to this side because this force is not large. If you push the ground hard with the lead leg, then this will go more. Then the force goes this way, and then you have more separation between this arrow and the center of mass. But the lead leg action is a bit weak, yeah, because you're not letting the body drop that much. So we'll see that later when we look at the force. But generally, you go horizontally here, away, and then go up, and diagonally down, and the diagonally up here. So you go more horizontally here, and then going up higher, and then drop more, and then push. Then you have a lot of interaction with the ground. So in order to use the ground well, that you must have a reasonable up and down motion and also lateral motion. So, but I think you need to work on the up and down motion here. And then this is the pelvis motion here. So the upper one is a pelvis translation, and then this is a pelvis rotation. First, the red line, this is rotation about the vertical axis. So this rotation here. So your rotation to the right is similar to man's average. And then on the at impact, it's a bit more than man's average, but this is okay. This is not too much. So the rotation range is reasonable. And then the blue line here is called the lateral tilt. So during the backswing, as you turn this way, right side stays higher, left side is lower, so the pelvis also tilts like this. It's called the lateral tilt. That this value is around 20 or slight over. This value is also reasonable. Okay. And then here, this is the translational motion. The green line is away and then toward the motion here. So let's see. So initially you have away motion up to this point here. And then it's coming back here. And as the pelvis rotates toward the target, then it continuously moves toward the target here. But this is called the recentering. You initially shift away and then recenter. You can have a bit more recentering here.
Okay.
So by the time you reach 5 here, so this point here, you are returning to the initial position here, so to this line here. But you're not quite there yet. So, so what we see here is, if I move this continuously, you tend to drop the lead side.
Yeah.
With that, you are generating this lateral tilt here. But what's important is that you actually have to bring the right side up. So push the ground and bring the right hip up. With that, you need to generate good amount of lateral tilt here. But you are mainly dropping the left side. And then stop here. You keep dropping. Instead, so in order to have active backswing here, and then active motion, and then later you build the climax, then you have to start the backswing with the body motion here. Body motion. For that, at the beginning, you have more active left leg action. Push the ground and then start this motion. and then push the ground with the right leg here. With there, you're building this climax up here. But if you go here and then drop this side here, it's hard to build the climax later. In order to build the climax, then you have to turn around the right leg here. But if you drop this way, it's hard to do that. So you need to use the trail leg, better in the backswing here, and then build.
So more pressure and up.
Yeah, bring the right hip up.
Yeah.
So that's what I see here, and then this is downward. This is up and down motion. Blue is up and down motion. Go down and then up here. This is more continuous motion. This is reasonable. So in general, judging from your pelvis motion here, you could really let the pelvis go lateral and then bring the hip up more and stand on the right side, and then using that push, when the right leg pushes the ground down and laterally outward, with there you will be able to recenter naturally with that push. So the recentering motion, initially shift away, and the recentering motion here, this is coming from this leg push, and then you're coming here. So imagine you're swinging with a bit narrow stance, throw here and then bring it back and take a small step and then swing. Swing. When you try to take this step, you have to push the ground using this leg here. Then you'll be able to take this step. So it's similar. The practice, you can practice this one here. Swing, the step on this side. When you take a step and then step here, then what happens is that this is unloaded, and then when you touch down, then you'll be able to load on this side, and with that you can push the ground hard. So, swing, and stand on the lead side. So this can be a good practice for you. So generally, use the right leg and then allow the pelvis go more over the right foot here, and then bring the hip a bit higher instead of keep it this here, block this, and then dropping this side. So that's what I see here. And then this is X factor. So this is separation between the hips and shoulders here. So about here, the X factor becomes 0 because these two lines, yellow line and the blue line, these are parallel to each other. So no angle between them. But then as the shoulders rotate more and more, now it shows X shape here. This angle is formed here. So that's this angle here. So as the separation continues, you are increasing the X factor here. And then, so this is top of backswing based on the club motion. And then the X factor keeps increasing a little bit here. That means that you have early action of the pelvis here. But if you have a good separation during the backswing, then you don't have to do this. So when you have enough separation during the backswing here, then simply throw. But if you feel this is not enough, then what happens is you go here and then start this way here. But now, when you do this, it's hard to push the ground.
Yeah.
You go up here and then slide recentering. With that, you are ready to kick this here, and then kick here, then you'll be able to push the ground well with this. But if you go here and then coming this way here, then later it's hard to push this side because you're collapsing here. So this motion, so this increase in the X factor from top of backswing to maximum, this is called the downswing stretch. But when we see this downswing stretch, that means you are moving the pelvis early. So you have to open the pelvis early. With that, it's hard to push the ground.
Push out, yeah.
And also in this case here, you will see that your knee is out here. Okay, you are going this way here. That means that your instep is leaving the ground early here, coming into this position. It's hard to push. In order to push the ground well, the whole foot, the ball of foot, should be able to push the ground. But if the knee goes out here, then your foot goes into this position, and then it's hard to push. So then generally you collapse. The pelvis collapses. So later we'll see the force, but so it's not a good idea to keep the knees bent and then it's sticking out like this. So the body, the legs, structure-wise, when you just flex the knee along this plane here, when this happens, you can push the ground without much burden on the knee. But when it goes out here, and then try to push here, if this is the main plane of motion, this is not a good idea.
Right.
Because the knee only shows a flexion extension here. So when the motion plane is matched with the neck, with the leg plane here, then you can push hard actively here. Then you can use really the ball of foot and the push here. So it shouldn't go this way.
Yep.
Okay. And then if you go this way, is your problem here. Just a push here. And on the way down, also push. Push this way, and then when the body turns, then you can roll the foot here. But if the knee comes out this way here, it's hard to push.
Yeah.
You see here, the force is acting along this line, but your knee is out. So then, when we go to the way you push the ground here, so this is during the initially, if you look at the force, these are the ground reaction forces from each foot here, and this is the combined force. As you do this backswing for a while, this force stays upright. That means your main is spinning. So instead of using the right actively and then really try to use this to bring the hip up.
Yeah. So I'm just going like.
Yeah. Although you are putting more weight on this side, it's just a weight shift here. So this force is greater than this one here, but the force is more upright. Then these two are pushing the ground equally, the lateral direction. They're canceled out, so the force is more vertically, and then for a while you are going this way here. But at this stage, you should have a good inclined force here. So your leg should be able to push along the leg line here. This force is slightly outside. This is the hip joint here. This force is not passing through the hip joint. It's going outside. That's why you have a spinning motion here. So actually about here, when the club is horizontal here, you must have a maximum push from the trail side. The blue line should be a lot larger here. With that also, the arrow should go through the hip joint here, but it's going outside. So you're just standing there and then, redistributing the weight more to the right side, but you're not really actively pushing along the leg line here. When this force goes along the leg line here, then this will also incline. And then more active push, then the center pressure moves to the trail foot more, and then the force will incline. This goes a bit more here.
Easier to get on my left side. Easier to.
Yeah. Then it has a horizontal component. They're using that horizontal component, you're introducing the recentering motion. But initially, you're just spinning, just redistributing the weight and then spinning. So this force is even not going through the hip joint here. This continues for a while here. You see. And then, now the force is more going, close to the hip joint here. Then this starts inclining here. This is a bit too late.
Okay.
But still, this portion is good. This inclination is good. But this has to come from initial push more down and laterally outward. From there, so you should have more difference here then this distance will decrease slightly. But in your case, you are increasing this a lot later. This is end of pelvis rotation. So when the pelvis rotation completed here, now here you are pushing more here. So the timing is not right. So at the beginning, instead of just lifting this and then spinning, you really have to use this action here. Push the ground with this push, so that the force is more coming through the hip joint in the front of you here. Push. Push, and then coming this way is a recentering here.
Yep.
So activating the trail leg early on in the back swing is important. So the middle one shows the force. The blue one is the force acting on the right side or trail side. The green is the force acting on the lead side. And at the beginning, when the cleaver starts moving here, you already have more force on this side. That means you are really leaning that way.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just leaning this way here. Instead, it has to start with the active left leg action, left leg, and then kick here. So basically, you are pushing the ground down and out here. That you don't have to shift the body that much. You are actively pushing out here. So when you have a continuous stepping like action here, instead of this shifting motion here,
Yeah.
instead of this motion, push, 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 push. So imagine this is a triangular space here. And then you're pushing so that you're straightening this side. And the pushing, you're straightening this side. So inside the triangular space, push, push, push. Then the head does not move laterally that much. But because you have wide stance, you can push the ground down and outward. Yes, this instead of more just the shifting motion here. So then, normally, when you have a good active swing, then at the beginning of the back swing, you have more force acting on this side here. And this force should be also going this way because you are pushing the ground down and outward. So this force is going this way through the pretty much the hip here. With that, you will be able to initiate the away motion. That's coming from active push rather than you shifting the body that way. And then, when you have good initial action, then you can also push the ground good with the right leg here. That this force also goes through the hip joint. But you are starting from the beginning, you have more force on this side. That means you're actually leaning more that way here, putting more force on this side. And then you spin around. Yeah. So this force is going outside the hip joint. This force is also going outside the hip joint. You're just standing there, and the forces are going this way here instead of from active push, so that the force goes through the hip joint. And then here now, the force is inclining here. So this is when the pelvis rotation is completed. Your cleaver is about here. This is top of back swing. And the lower one here, this graph shows the so-called moment arm. Moment arm is the separation between the center of mass and this arrow here, this perpendicular distance, or the separation here. Imagine you have a wrench going this way, you're holding it here in the push. So here's a wrench and you're holding it in the push, then it will rotate. So this separation is called the moment arm or lever arm. And then you're pushing this way here, that the body rotates. This is the torque you generate. So this moment arm times the force gives you the torque. And then because the golf swing is more angular motion dominant motion, so you have to generate good amount of torque, right? So then this has to go more. And then you have this maximum momentum here, but you are going through the unweighting phase here. And then, but still this value is fairly large at the beginning of the downswing here, but after that it just decreases because you lose the momentum rapidly here.
Yeah, right.
So even at this stage, still the force is more acting outside your joint here. Later I will show you another pattern, okay, someone else, and then see how the forces are, acting on the body. But then, so this is the maximum force here. This is the maximum amount of force you generate through interaction with the ground. This is little man's average. You're way below, because see your knee is bent here, and you're not pushing the ground that well here. And then the lower leg is upright, and then you're going this way. That means that already here, the instep is leaving the ground here. It's hard to push the ground hard. So this maximum force is way smaller. And this is mainly coming from the lead leg push here. And if this goes more, then this goes more here. But so in terms of torque you generate, this is at the top of action. From here, it just decreases. So what matters is under the area under the curve here. You need to make this large.
Okay.
But it doesn't reach the maximum, average maximum here, and then it goes down. So this area is not that large. So in the frontal view, you're not generating that much torque.
Right.
And so the momentum increases but rapidly decreases. Part of the reason is, again, when you spin, in the downswing also your pelvis is turning and you're spinning here. Then you are pushing the ground now almost equally here. Or it actually, when you spin, what happens is in this position, try to spin and then push. So now you have a lot of lateral push. Then the force inclines. This force inclines early in this direction. Then you lose the momentum here. So when you stand on the more lead side here, that the force is more, large force is acting here, then it inclines less.
Yes.
But because you go here and turn the pelvis and then just go this way here, you don't let the body go and stand on the lead side. So the force is inclined this way quite a bit. So you lose the momentum quickly here. As you turn, the pelvis is turning, body is turning here. You see the inclination of this force here. Mm-hmm. So this force is already inclined. So about 7 here, when the lead arm is paired to the ground, this force should be vertical here. But it's already inclining away. So then you quickly lose the momentum. From here to here, momentum decreases rapidly. It's because this force arrow is inclining away quickly. That's because you're not moving enough toward the target, right. So you cannot really stand on the leader side. Yeah. Without standing on the leader side and just try to push, then it's a lot of horizontal push here, then the force goes this way here. So here, more than anything, so when you have that small step here, go, take a step, and swing and stand on the leader side, then the force will go more this way and then less inclination. And then even here, so this is the torque you generate. But the torque rapidly decreases, and by time you reach about this position here, when the club is parallel to the ground, the torque goes in the opposite direction here. So your rotation is a downward rotation, but the torque is acting in the opposite direction to interfere with the rotation. You don't have to generate large torque at this stage because most of the torque was generated earlier. However, there's no reason to go way opposite side here. This is because this force is inclining too much. Right. And then it will go, now after this, it will go to the left side of the center of mass here. Then the torque is acting in the opposite direction toward the impact. So this happens when the force inclines too early.
Okay.
And that means you're not really standing on the leader side.
Yeah.
So from short backswing here, and when you muscle it, try to muscle it early opening of the pelvis, and then try to hit it with the muscles here, then you naturally develop away force early.
Yeah.
But instead, also you have to have feel of release. Let it go, throw here, and then let it go instead of.
That's what I do. Yeah.
So when you develop good flow here, let it go here, and then reverse the direction, and then also let it go. So here, what you will see is that the left arm is more extended, and then because the club head is moving faster now here, your hand is pretty much following that instead of dragging it here. And part of the reason why you cannot release it that way is because your club is too heavy. I checked your swing weight. It was almost an E0, D9.6. Your irons were like close to a D5.
Okay.
And your driver was
Heavy.
D9.6. It's close to a E0. It's heavy. When the club is heavy, you cannot really let it go. Okay? So you have to drag it. Part of the reason why you are dragging is because it's heavy.
Okay.
And then, so generally, when you tend to drag, then your wrist contribution to the club speed decreases a little bit because you cannot really do this. So we'll see that. But so in the way you interact with the ground here, then you are not really pushing the ground hard. And also the timing is late here. This peak is delayed. The peak force should occur about here. When the club is aligned along the vertical direction here, about here you must have a maximum force. But this is delayed.
Again, though, when I load up better and then recenter, that would just automatically happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So the best way to practice that is having stepping like action, almost like a step, 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 step. In the step, you have to push the ground, extend the leg, and then extend the leg. When you do this, then you are more pushing the ground in the direction of the leg here. So the ground direction force is more coming through the hip joint.
Instead of mine going, right?
So image this triangular space, and then you're pushing down and laterally, down and laterally. Then with that, it will confine your body motion within that space. And then the kinematic sequence here. To me, the most important sequence is the transition sequence. For you, the transition sequence is good. Okay, transition sequence is good, so you don't have to worry about this. And you also have this down cocking and the delayed release here. This part is all. This pink line is the wrist angular velocity, and then when it crosses the horizontal axis here close to 7, that means it's a delayed release. So this is good, but you need to have more wrist cock to start with.
At the top of this one.
Generally, your wristed motion is okay, but you don't have enough wrist cock.
So you want it more hinge or more. Okay.
So again, if we go this view here, let's use this view. So this is the top of backswing here. This is the swing plane view here. And then your club is already away from the body quite a bit here because you have really short backswing. You're limiting it. But at this stage, the club has to come more this way here.
Okay.
When the club comes closer to the body, then you reduce the moment of inertia of the whole system. Moment of inertia is the resistance to rotational acceleration. So when the club stays more away from the body here, then the overall system moment of inertia is large. That for the same amount of torque you generate, the angular acceleration becomes smaller. So in order to rotate faster, then you have to reduce the moment of inertia. Okay? Then you have to keep the club close to the body here. When the club comes close to the body, then overall system moment of inertia decreases. You can generate the fast rotation.
Okay.
But because the club is already here, you don't have much wrist cock to start with. Then on the way down, even if you have a bit of down cocking here, but still it's limited. And that's why at impact here, although this wrist motion pattern is good, delayed release here, but your maximum wrist angular velocity only goes this much. This is elite man's average. You're here. Although your club angular velocity is at the average here, but your wrist contribution is not much. And so overall, you are turning your body quite a bit by spinning around, turning your body quite a bit, but your wrist does not have enough contribution. Actually, wrist complex, which gives the wrist motion and this forearm pronation supination here, this is an important contributor to the curvature speed. A big portion of the curvature speed is associated with the wrist complex motion, but your wrist angular velocity is not high here. That means you're just turning the whole body hard, but you're not using the wrist that much. But in order to use the wrist more effectively, the club has to be a bit lighter, and then you should have a bit more wrist cut. Okay. Then with that, you can throw. But if the club is heavy, then you know that it's heavy, so it's hard to use these small muscles here.
These just got
drag it.
I went and got fit in Bethesda, and he actually put the lead tape on to make them heavier. So maybe this fitter was no good, you know. So okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. So when you feel it's a bit lighter, then you can easily use the wrist here. So it will encourage you to use the wrist more. Yeah. But as soon as you feel it heavy, then instead of using these small muscles here, you try to use the large muscles, you tend to drag it. Okay. So that's if you have the lead tape, then just remove the lead tape, and then intentionally try to use the wrist a bit more here. Yeah, but yeah, this pattern is okay, but it is not going high enough. That means it's probably because of the heavy club here. So then the timing of the peak angular velocity, these are okay, reasonable here. Although slightly delayed, the pelvis is slightly delayed here. But pelvis and the arms, these timings are okay, so I wouldn't worry about them. So in your case, developing more motion along the swing plane, particularly at the beginning of the backswing, instead of lifting this up, and then let it go a bit more, and allow more wrist cock here. And then from there, on the way down, develop the feel of releasing the wrist here. But with that, you have to practice this stepping action. Step, 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 and step, step, and swing, 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 throw, throw. When you repeat this motion, everything will come together. Okay. So you can have this holistic approach to address different issues at once. So what we'll do is, let me show you another pattern here. This is Grant Waite. Let's see his pattern. Scan through his pattern and see what we can find in his pattern. So club speed is a bit lower than you, but it's fairly good. And then his peak occurs later than earlier, and the 3 and 4 are separated. And then top here, these are fairly aligned toward the target. So both the planes are pretty much parallel to each other in terms of direction. In the swing plane here, so this is along the swing plane. Initially, as you can see, the club head is more moving along the swing plane here. And then so at the top, the hands and club head are not showing that much difference in terms of deviation from the swing plane. And the nice looping motion here. So the displacement is a bit bigger. And on the way down, he's quickly bringing the club head down toward the swing plane here. And then nice planar motion, and then club head is now moving up here. In this process, his hands just gradually coming down and touches the swing plane and then going back here. Instead of going in the parallel direction and then try to pull this in. center of mass, instead of dropping, it's going horizontal and then going up and then diagonally down and up here. So it's going lower than the initial position here. Pelvis. So here, if you look at his pelvis motion, generally during the backswing, this force is more going through the hip joint here, all the way. That you can see in this view here. So when he has active push here, it's going through the hip joint, and then this force is inclined. So so he's using his legs more and then push the ground. And then so he has initial shift away up to this point, but then recenter to this position here. And then when the pelvis starts rotating, then keeps moving toward the target. Good here. And he's standing on his lead leg here. So you need to have sufficient pelvis shift toward the target. And then X factor keeps increasing, and then it peaks around the top of backswing here. So he doesn't have an intentional early opening of the pelvis here. This is passing through the hip joint here. And then kinematic sequence, good sequential. And then the peaks are occurring about here, so timing is also good. His wrist contribution is higher. So he is generating this much club angular velocity because of his wrist angular velocity. So he's using his wrist a lot better. Well-spaced transition here. And also the club angular velocity reaches peak here, the arms here. So the body generally reaches peak angular velocity at the center of the backswing, and then the arms after that, and then club after that. So everything is toward the climax in the backswing.
Yeah.
And then go to the way he interacts with the ground. So at the beginning, he has more force acting on the lead side. It's pretty much going through the hip joint here. So whenever you have active leg action, then the force has to go through the hip joint in the front of you.
So to start the swing, maybe a little bump on the left, right, and then.
That's called the trigger motion.
Yeah.
And then, so with that, more force on the lead side, and then he has a good push. So when the club is around here, he has a good push from the trail side here. With that, this force is inclined toward the target. And also, he has a good push here. After good push, he has this is called unweighting, but this is the body weight line here. So the force goes above the body weight and below the body weight. This is unweighting. He has a continuous unweighting because of this good push, because he's using his trail leg well in the backswing. And with that, so right after the top of backswing, he has the maximum unweighting, but the longest momentum, which goes above man's average. He's generating this much torque here, which is the same to elite man's average maximum. And he maintains that here. From here to pretty much here, he's maintaining it. So he has a larger area under the curve here. So, and then his maximum force occurs here. About 7, when the lead arm is parallel to the ground, still the force is slightly toward the target and almost upright here. And then at ED, when the club stays vertical, then it's slightly inclining, but not much. But in your case, this is inclining quite a bit, and also smaller force here. And then, so around here, his torque becomes 0 because this is passing through the center of mass, but the force does not go on the left side. So it does not go negative quite a bit. And ultimately, still the center of pressure is close to his left foot here. So that means he's maintaining the lead leg force well here. So he's pretty much standing on the lead leg here. So still at impact, he has a lot more force acting on the lead leg here. Yeah. So you have the image of swinging and the standing on the lead leg, and this happens. But if you don't shift and then just a turn here, you're pushing the ground horizontally, then the force inclines quickly. Then it goes the opposite side of the center of mass, then the torque acts in the opposite direction. So you do have room for improvement, but
Yeah.
the main thing is developing rhythm and particularly awaken the trail leg here.